we actually create space where the chi will naturally gather, and we can store that chi in these spaces. But in order to allow the joints to open, we need to completely relax the muscles. Tense muscles contract, so that closes the joints. So as we try to open the joints, we actually have to loosen and soften the muscles even more. So you get this really nice kind of effect where the more you open the joints, the more space you create. The more space you create, the more you can soften the muscles. The more you soften the muscles, the more you can open the joints. And it keeps going and going and going and going. Create more space. Then we start to find a better alignment within the body. When we create that space, you get little movements in the body, and allow those movements to come through. Don't feel that you have to just stand absolutely still. Allow movement to happen within the body, and you start to improve your natural alignment. When you improve the natural alignment of your physical body, your energetic system can start to operate much more smoothly. And imagine the energy running through all the meridians through the body without kind of any resistance being caused by closed joints or tight muscles. All about softening and opening, finding a nice alignment. And then once you've got all of that, then it's all about connecting the whole of the body to the whole of the body. So that our body isn't just different areas of muscle groups that are working independently. The whole body moves and works together. And then our mind is completely saturated within the body. So the mind and the body aren't separate, they become one thing. So it means that we're able to feel the whole of the body with our mind without actually having to look at anything. We just be aware of, let's say, the left big toe, for example. Without looking, just send your mind to the left big toe. And you just know where it is in space. The more relaxed you are, the more you can open up the joints in the body and allow the energy to flow, the easier it is for the mind to move around the body and to know what's happening around the body, inside the body, and also outside the body. So we're just going to bring the hands around in front, and each of the fingers are going to point towards each other. And you can choose whatever height works for you. You can be nice and low if you like. And it slightly changes that the fingers aren't quite pointing towards each other, but the index finger and the thumb can point towards each other, and it feels like they're connected. Or you can come a little bit higher, kind of around the solar plex. Or if you like, you can come up to chest height. If you're experienced with Qigong, you might even want to go above the head. It's entirely up to you. Just find a position that's comfortable. And also during the session, feel different positions. Experiment with it. Notice how it feels when you're at different positions. What we're going to do is just start to tune into our natural structure of the body. So our natural structure isn't made up of tense muscles, it's made up of bones, ligaments, and the fascia. So it means that what we want to do is relax the muscles as much as possible. We always start from the feet and we work our way up through the body. We always want to try and just let go of any tension that's available to let go of. So just bring your awareness down to the base of the feet. Just notice the heels, the pads of the toes, just every area of the feet that's in contact with the ground. Just try and feel if there's any tension that might be there. Is anything feeling constricted and closed? And we just want to undo that and allow that to open up. It might mean spreading the toes out a little bit more. It might mean making a little bit of adjustments in the feet. And then just become aware of any tension in the feet. And just try to dissolve maybe 1% of that tension. Just imagine it softening and falling down into the ground. Try to imagine it falling maybe a foot into the ground. And then come up into the area around the ankles and just see if there's any tension, maybe around the tops of the toes, around the Achilles heel. And just try and let go of 1%, any tension that you can feel, and let it dissolve down through the center of the feet and into the ground. As we move on to the larger muscle groups, it starts to become a little bit more, let's say, obvious what we're trying to achieve here. So as we move up into the calves, maybe the shins, you might just be aware that actually there is a bit of something being held in the muscle. So just trying to find 1 or 2% of that tension and just letting it go, letting it dissolve down. And I really like the analogy of pouring hot water on a sugar cube. Imagine that your mind is pouring water, hot water on that muscle, and it's dissolving that tension away, and it's falling down through the center of the feet and into the ground. And then we'll come up to around the knees. So now that we're at the knees, we just want to check in with the position of our knees, make sure that they haven't fallen on the inside here. Still nice and open, knees over the toes. Is there any tension maybe around the kneecaps, or even the back of the knees? We just want to let that go. Let it fall down through the legs, through the feet, and down into the ground. Now we'll move up into the upper legs. So these are the first really big muscles. We always hold tension here. See what you can let go of. See how much you can let go of. 1%, 2%, 5%, maybe even 10%. And just really try to dissolve that tension down. See how much of that tension you can let go of. How soft can you make those muscles? Dissolving it down through the ground. So while we're on these big muscles and we're kind of playing, it might take a little bit longer to feel that. Keep trying to dissolve that tension down. And I just want to highlight something that is sometimes overlooked, that actually it's not the physical muscles that's holding the tension, it's the belief of the tension, essentially. It's the idea, it's the mind that's holding the tension in those muscles. If we don't have consciousness, we don't have tension in the muscles. Unless, of course, there's injuries or scar tissue or knots or anything like that. But this day-to-day tension that we're trying to dissolve, it lives in the mind and it gets dissolved out of the body through the mind. It's a mind exercise. And this mind exercise allows the body to become saturated with the mind. It allows the mind essentially to regain command of the body. So just again, trying to let go of a little bit more tension in the upper legs. And then we'll move up into the glutes, so around the bum, around the hips. See if there's any tension there. And now the hips are the first big joints that we've met in the body. So that means that when we're dissolving that tension away, try to create a little bit more space here. So don't feel like it's being compressed into the hips. Imagine that as we release and we open the hips, we create almost like an air spring within that joint. It starts to feel almost like you're sat on a cloud or sat on like a yoga ball or something. It starts to have this natural springiness. And this goes the same for all of the joints in the body. The bigger the joint, the easier it is to feel this. So trying to lengthen the muscles, dissolve any tension away and let it flow down into the ground, and trying to create space in the joints. We'll move up into the spine, maybe the thoracic spine, maybe the core, maybe we're holding our belly in. Again, we can just let that go, let that completely relax. Make sure that we've still got the slight elongation through the spine, so we haven't collapsed anything. We're relaxing and releasing the muscles, but we're not collapsing our structure. Our structure stays open. Our joints stay open, and we build these air springs in between all of our vertebrae. So we start to feel this almost like a floating, bouncy type of sensation, as well as a sinking down into the ground. We'll check in with the pectoid muscles, make sure we're nice and soft around the shoulders here. Sometimes people kind of collapse the shoulders in slightly and hold this tension in the upper arm and on the pectoid here, just inside the shoulder. So just trying to make sure that the shoulder blades are down the back. So our shoulders are directly above our hips, not forwards of our hips. So our hips essentially support our shoulders, and our feet support our hips. So we get this nice alignment through the body. Making sure the tops of the shoulders are nice and relaxed, and that the deltoid muscle here on the top of the arm, especially if you're doing a higher position, this can hold a little bit of tension. We tend to try, when we go higher, we tend to push the shoulders forward, so just make sure that we're still falling down the back. Upper arms are nice and loose, biceps, triceps. Try to find 1% of the tension and just dissolve it down. Down through the shoulders, down through the trunk of the body, through the hips, through the legs, through the feet, down into the ground. Releasing the forearms and the wrists. Be aware of 1% of tension there. What can you let go of? What don't you need? And again, we're not collapsing. We're holding the structure in the body. So the fingers are still pointing towards each other. If we're in this position, we're still holding this position. And remember, we're opening everything up. So all the joints in the hands open. We create space in the hands. So we don't just kind of have like closed, completely soft and like spaghetti-like hands. We actually create that space by opening up the joints, softening the muscles. If you go too far, you're adding tension because you're using the muscle to force it open. Find the open feeling without adding any tension, always dissolving that tension away. Feeling the side of the neck, or any tension around the neck that we can let go of. Being aware of the jaw, maybe there's some tension around the jaw and the cheeks, softening the cheeks down. Even the tongue, sometimes we hold our tongue forwards. Softening the brow. I had a bit of a funny revelation with softening the brow fairly recently, where I find that when you soften the brow, it kind of feels like your eyebrows separate, your eyebrows spread apart. And see if you can imagine that you create that space in the brow and your eyebrows almost separate. Then try to feel all the cranial muscles and all the muscles around the skull, separating everything down. might even feel energy around the skull here when you're releasing all the muscles down through the body, down through the legs, down through the feet, and into the ground. So just a reminder that we're not trying to stand still. This isn't endurance. This isn't an endurance exercise. We're not trying to build muscle with this. It's the opposite. So if you're feeling fatigued, gently stand back up, take a few steps around, but maybe continue the exercise, or continue the exercise whilst being sat down if you like, or even take a rest. If you're noticing any kind of vibrations in the muscles, as long as it's not a fatiguing vibration, if it's kind of like a juddering, kind of a nice feeling actually, that's a good sign. That means that you're really focused on releasing and relaxing. Essentially, it's like the mind having a conversation with the body, the mind saying let go, and the muscles essentially saying no, I don't want to. It's having this little bit of a battle, and eventually the mind will win. You're giving it time. So although we're doing this in a specific posture, the idea of this posture being a very neutral position to stand in, where we have a good alignment in the body and our energy meridians, the channels that our chi flows around, are nicely stacked up and lined up. We can do this in any position. Anytime you become aware of tension, you can use your mind to let go of that tension. You might notice it when you're driving, for example, when you're sat at a desk at work, or when you're having a conversation or standing in a queue. We get good at this exercise by practicing it here, but we get really good at it by practicing it in life, in our daily life. And although we're focusing on the body here, the power of this exercise actually comes through understanding how we release tension by using the mind. It's the mind holding the tightness in the muscles, mostly. So if we have mental tension, it's exactly the same process. If you feel stress, you can release that stress in the same process, the same feeling of letting it flow down through the body and into the ground. So I just invite you to keep working your way from the feet up through the body, and just checking in with areas that might be holding tension, and just letting the mind go there, letting the mind keep telling the muscle, let go, release, dissolve. And then as it starts to let go, you might feel that slight releasing of the tension. And it's that slight releasing, that kind of an energetic tension, that we want to use our mind to track down into the ground. So we're actually tracking this energy out of the body. We want to keep opening the joints as we're doing that, creating more space in the joints, creating more space in the body. And feeling that spring, like that air spring, that pocket spring inside the body. As we get this flowing down through the body, we get an equal and opposite force that comes up from the ground up to the top of the head. So it may be that if you're feeling that you're getting this nice releasing feeling, but it's starting to feel very heavy, tune into the equal and opposite force coming right up through the body, into the rear crown and above the rear crown. Keep holding that head nice and high. And as you really focus on that floating feeling coming up through the body, Notice how you get a much lighter feeling in the body. I also want to let you know that this is a very difficult exercise. If you're really good at this exercise, you can do this in 5 minutes and start really getting shakes in the body because you're able to release the tension. If you're not getting shakes in the body, we're still holding on to the tension. So that little kind of vibration in the muscles is a really good sign. If you're struggling with standing in this position, don't try and force it, don't try and fight it. It's not endurance. I can't stress that enough. It's all about releasing. You're better doing 5 minutes and stopping and trying 5 minutes again later in the day, instead of trying to do half an hour standing and forcing yourself to do that. You don't learn so much that way. So just allowing the shoulders to drop and the elbows to drop and the hands to fall down. Feeling the feet on the ground, thinking up into the top of the head, and just undoing the bend in the knees and just stepping the feet in.